once our chain goes live, they're going to get prompted to say, hey, next time you interact with this website, would you like to use your .id domain system?
You know, the land of the free, more like the land of the SEC.
Our main focus on creating different dApps to reaching Web2 users with a star network in technology.
That's 10 million wallets on Mandala Chain, and ultimately in the Polkadot ecosystem.
Our daily first big splash in America with the Indy 500 certainly helped a lot, and there was a lot of pushback. There was a lot of people who said, like, it's a race car event, like, why are people going to care? But you look at the Polkadot search metrics that day and they absolutely exploded.
Not a project or company. We are the just experimental laboratory. Best utility in Astar network is dApp stacking.
Like, no. There's a better solution here. Like, Polkadot is the best tech stack that there is.
The other thing I think is a huge asset is our community.
It's gonna be my first Polkadot event. To be honest, I grew it in the Polkadot ecosystem. When I joined here, I was a teenager.
I'm a teenager now.
There we go. There we go.
Hello and welcome to new TMP podcast. Today I'm delighted to have with me amazing teams. We have Michael from Mandala Chain, Leo from Neurolanche, and Ryan Funky from Lucky Friday. How are you guys?
Great. How are you? Excited to be here.
Fine, very good.
That's great. Okay, so first of all, we are going to make an introduction. We have two new faces here in the program. Leo, Leo from the past programs where we make. He's a legend here in the TMP podcast. But we are going to introduce now to, first of all, Michael. He's from Mandala Chain team, working on Polkadot, Substrate, and Indonesia. So, Michael, you can introduce yourself.
Yeah, good to be here. Thanks, everyone. So I'm Australian originally, but for the last 6 or 7 years, or maybe even more actually, I've been based in Bali, Indonesia. And my original sort of step into the Web3 world was we just started as a content creator. And within a very short period of time, became one of the largest in Indonesia. So I've got an Indonesian team. We've got a big research team. And so for probably 3 years now, we've been, 3 or 4 of the years, we've been producing 30 pieces of content a week. We do deep research, and we founded Republic DAO. And so Republic DAO is now like our, one of the largest blockchain communities in Indonesia. And it is like a blockchain agnostic community. It's not just a Polkadot community. So I'm the Polkadot man inside the community, even though I'm one of the founders of the DAO. So we've got a really large community. And then probably a couple of years ago, with just some of the connections of people that we'd made, we realized that we had this beautiful opportunity to build something amazing. And that's kind of where Mandala Chain came from. And I'll talk a little bit more about that as we go. But yeah, that's the brief introduction.
That's great, Michael. So welcome here to TMP Podcast, to Polkadot itself. It's amazing to have you here. Now, let's jump to, finally, I can get Funky here in the podcast. How are you, Funky?
I'm great, my friend. Thank you to everybody who's watching. For those who don't know me, my name is Ryan Hazinski, aka The Funky One, or just simply Funky. I'm the Director of Protocol Relations with a company called Lucky Friday Labs, which is an operating company and sort of an incubator that's owned by Silvermine Capital. Lucky Friday Labs, the first business unit that we built, of course, is Global Stake, where we run our own institutional grade infrastructure on fully owned bare metal nodes that we operate in SOC 2 compliant data centers. So really just trying to help, institutional investors start staking, whatever it may be. Of course, we're Polkadot native. And then our first Lucky Friday NFT, many probably recognize the Teddy DAO hat, which I wear. It is always a big hit everywhere I go. And so Teddy DAO is our first NFT project that is 100% for charity. Every single day, a unique Teddy is minted, anybody can go on there and use Glimmer, or we have, the Squid Router bridge built right in, which is completely feeless. People can convert other tokens from other chains and go ahead and make a donation to the charity of their choice with our partners Just Giving. And so I'm just excited to be here and have a part of this conversation, and really looking forward to the rest. Adrian, thanks so much for having me.
That's amazing, Ryan. For sure, I want one of that hat, please. Yeah, Leo, now the legend of the podcast. You can introduce yourself another
Okay,
time.
well, thank you so much for this opportunity. I think this is my third podcast with you. Hello guys, I'm Leo, co-founder and CEO of Neurolanche Labs. I'm a neuroscience master student in Italy and still making a research about human emotions and behavior with related AI. Also, I studied AI engineering and psychology. In Polkadot ecosystem, we started to build Neurolanche Labs with different applications in Polkadot, but we are mostly using the Astar network structure. We are using Astar ZKVM also. It is me. Nice to meet you again. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
That's great. A pleasure to have you here another time. So let's start with the projects. No, we have three of the best projects in Polkadot right now. First of all, let's start with Mandala Chain. Michael, can you introduce me what is this Mandala Chain and why the focus in Indonesia and Asian zone?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I guess the interesting one is, I think if you're going to sort of start a new chain in 2023 or 2024, you need to have a pretty good reason, because there's already so much great infrastructure out. You don't really need to, for most people, don't need to build a blockchain. You could just build on one of the many amazing chains that already exist. But I think for us, the reason why we ended up going down this path is because the use case came to us and the community came to us. And then the thing that we were missing was actually just the actual technology itself. And so my co-founder, Anta, he's a local Indonesian guy. He's we call him the James Bond of Indonesia. And anyone who's at Decoded will meet. He might not be at Decoded, but anyone who meets him will see it first glance. He's got this aura about him. So he's worked with the government in Indonesia for many, many years. He's got an old family, Indonesian family that's got a lot of history in Bali specifically. And he's worked quite across Indonesia in sort of building out smart cities, AI programs. He's got an undergraduate in blockchain, a master's in AI. And he's kind of consulted with the government for many years. And he runs a dev shop. He's got his own sort of dev company. And he was getting contacted to build out all these blockchain solutions. So Indonesia is still a developing country, but it is the 4th largest country in the world by population. There's more people in just one of the Indonesian islands than there is in all of Russia, in the island of Java. So it only comes behind the US as far as population goes, and the average age is young. And so while they're still a developing country, they're now of the mindset that they can sort of skip out a lot of the sort of core banking infrastructure that they don't have and move into blockchain. And some of these developing countries have been very, very open to new technology, not sort of resisting it like a lot of Western traditional countries are. And so they started coming to him saying, hey, we want to do stuff. We want to build a government services, and we want to build future-proof ourselves, future of banking, future of voting, future of identity. And so he's like, wow, okay, they're asking me to build this thing. And then we teamed up because we obviously had Republic DAO. We had the attention of the blockchain community in Indonesia and thought, all right, we can do something here. So the primary use case to start with is just to show proof of concept in Indonesia. We're not going to be an Indonesia-only project. We're already talking to probably 3 or 4 other governments now about how we can roll out this solution. But really from day one, what we will do when we launch in the next couple of months is provide an identity solution where .id is the domain system which is owned by the Indonesian government. And everybody uses this, Coinbase.id. And it stands for Indonesia, not identity. But they know that no one's using it for Indonesia. They're all using it for identity. So they said, well, let's lean into this. So we're going to create an identity that will work like an ENS, like an Ethereum name service, where you can bundle, sort of like a nested NFT, you can bundle anything into it. So it could be a KYC credential, it could be a wallet, it could be your website, it could be anything. And what we've done is we've built this so that all of these Indonesian government services and banking services and business services can Lego brick build on top of this. and effectively they can build all of these like dApps and permissioned environments and all that sort of stuff that would sit on top of that .id domain structure. So we've had to do this by building out a series of different subnets for governments, and some of them will be permissioned and some of them will be sort of federated nodes. Some of them will just be like an L2 on top of Mandala. Some of them will be a dApp on top of Mandala. Some of them we might roll them up into core time into our blocks, depending on how that plays out. But we're building custom use cases for government, retail, and enterprise. That's pretty much the nuts and bolts of it. And we will use proof of concept in Indonesia, and the 4th largest country in the world, and then hope to ship it everywhere. That's pretty much the gist of it.
Wow, this is incredible, Michael. It's just incredible. I think that this government focus and this architecture building on Polkadot and itself in the Mandala chain, it's just incredible for the massive adoption of this, let's say, developing countries that they need this technology because, as you said, they are more proactive in this technology. Maybe later Funky can talk us about the situation of the United States, that maybe is a more traditional state, let's say. So, but now we are going to jump into Ryan. Funky, you can give us an introduction, or let's say a lucky introduction of what is Lucky Friday?
Yeah, sure. Before I go, though, I do want to just comment on Michael's. First and foremost, what you're building is incredible. I was a teacher for nearly 20 years, and immediately, like once you started saying the statistics, I was just thinking about teaching geography for many years, and I knew, like, yes, it's a massive country. People really underestimate Indonesia, its size, and just how it's very common to see that kind of leapfrogging in technology, especially in developing nations. So it's you have the younger cohort, you have them looking. So this sounds really quite promising. So kudos to you guys and the team for recognizing a great place to start something like this. But just for me, in terms of like, I kind of gave a broad overview. So to kind of give you the whole backstory of just kind of understand where we're coming from. So our co-founders, Rich Shorten and Thomas Chaffee, they have been in the tech industry for 25 plus years. They started Silvermine Capital as a fund. So they've always been interested in tech right after the dot-com bubble burst. And they got into telecoms because Rich sat on the telecom board. And in the late 90s, before the dot-com bubble burst, and I know this is for some younger viewers might not know this part of the history, they had started laying fiber optic cable up and down the East Coast of the United States. Now, at the time, for those who are too young to remember this, like I was on dial-up on AOL and everything else. And so people used to look at the internet and think it was going to be a fad, and they thought it was all going to disappear. And then they also said, like, why do we need this fiber optic cable? We have telephone lines. This makes no sense. And the first company they bought and flipped was a company that had been laying all the fiber optic cable, because Rich said the cable itself is worth more than the company. This should be the first company we buy. They've just repeated this process and have been serial entrepreneurs. They come into companies that are distressed. Rich had a legacy history of as a merger and acquisition lawyer on Wall Street. So this is kind of the water he swam in, and he loves buying companies, kind of like Warren Buffett, looking at companies that maybe have fallen on some hard times. Maybe they're distressed. They need some capital. They need some leadership. They come in there, they rebuild the company, and they sell it off, rinse and repeat. In 2019, they sold a podcast company to iHeartMedia. And Rich was saying the next big thing in tech is going to be blockchain, and we need to be ahead of this curve. And so as a venture capital firm, they really didn't have the mechanics to actually start this. So they started Lucky Friday as an operating entity, but they really envisioned it to be sort of an incubator of sorts, where we could continue to create different business units. So if you look at the luckyfriday.io site, it's got the famous 4 clovers, which you see here on my shirt. Each clover represents one aspect of things that we're really into. Like there's a whole clover just for governance, for instance. But of course, our first clover had to be infrastructure, sort of the picks and shovels play. Like, about the gold rush, the best place to be is the one selling the picks and the shovels to all the miners who are coming in. And so Rich and Tom had this idea of everybody's running everything in the cloud. When you look at most of the RPC providers, the validators, 70% of Ethereum runs on AWS or Microsoft Azure or Google Cloud. And so because you have these centralized entities running decentralized, what should be decentralized compute systems, they saw an opportunity and they said, you know what, it's going to be more difficult because there's a lot of capex involved. We have to buy our own servers, we have to rent locations at data centers, but we wanted to offer something that was truly institutional grade. So though you see Lucky Friday as a name for Polkadot validators or anything that's more of our community brand, it's just because we hadn't developed global stake. It's the same exact hardware. So you're getting the best servers in the highest security data centers. We're being onboarded with a lot of custodians. And so global stake, once that kind of took on a life of its own, we started doing the podcast and everything else. And then our next business unit that came out shortly thereafter, of course, which was Teddy DAO, which I spoke about before. So we actually have a whole business unit called Lucky Friday NFT. We didn't do anything beyond Lucky Friday yet, but we do envision a point where maybe we will create more NFTs. But the whole point of creating Teddy DAO first was Tom and Rich. They're very, they've had a lot of success in life. They are very big on giving back. They've gone to Africa to dig wells. They've done any number of things. And they wanted to make sure that the first project we did was 100% for charity. We do not take a cut. We don't get a penny of anything that goes through Teddy DAO. It's all for supporting the charity. People get to choose the charity when they bid. Technically, like 1.9% of that goes to Just Giving because they orchestrate all of it. They are a nonprofit themselves, but the other 98+% goes to the charity that you choose when you make your bid. And so Lucky Friday, especially in our Polkadot ecosystem, has tried to become sort of ecosystem agents, being leaderships and, demonstrating leadership. And most recently, we became one of the DVs, the delegated voices from the Web3 Foundation. So that's kind of the big picture on how we got to here in the last 2 years. And always happy to engage with others. So if you have questions, if you see the podcast, give me a shout.
That's great, thank you. So thank you so much for the introduction. I love this root, the roots of, let's say, Lucky Friday. I don't have idea of this, but it's super great.
One quick one. This is really funny. So Silvermine Capital, the name of the VC fund, I forgot to mention this. The reason that they created the operating company Lucky Friday is because Lucky Friday is actually the biggest silver mine in the United States. So that's where the name came from. But then when they started shopping the name around as the validator business, most of the big investors were like, I don't want to run infrastructure that's called Lucky. So hence the global stake name was born. And if you look at the globalstake.io site, it's very Web 2 looking, right?
Yeah. No, I know it's like super synthetic, and that, that's great. So I can prove that that I'm holder of Teddy DAO right now, and yeah, the process is amazing, and giving to charity is is making good, and that make feels good also. So so now let's jump to Leo. Leo, can you explain us about Neurolanche? Maybe if you want our listeners know about Neurolanche, or if you want to expand the vision, what have been doing Neurolanche in these 2 months, 3 months? I mean, I know everything, no, but you can introduce.
Yeah, come on, you're from our team also. But okay, well, I mean, to be honest, I'm gonna, how can I say to you, present a little bit, and I'm gonna talk about what is Neurolanche steps, but I don't wanna go to back history today because maybe Funky from our beginning, because I mean, actually, to be honest, created Neurolanche steps like NFT collection at the beginning. We weren't building any product, but still, we are focusing to build some product to reaching Web2 users with using account abstraction structure. Okay, well, what is Neurolanche steps? We created Neurolanche steps with my university classmates in 2020 to just making research about the psychological part of the COVID-19 process. It wasn't about the blockchain part. We were just making research. We were writing contents, articles. How COVID-19 is affecting to people emotion or behavior, because we couldn't continue our education life or enter. Actually, we stopped our whole life in this pandemic process. Then after it, we started to make it also research about the blockchain. Also, we saw, okay, we can use some blockchain technology to creating some different dApps, which is we were building the Neuroverse for the creating digital labs for the health and education sectors. Everything started like that. But if we're gonna come today, it is actually not Neurolanche starts. It was the beginning, because we are not. I mean, we don't have background in our community and our projects, any ventures, any capitals. I mean, to be honest, we are the community-based projects. On this process, I mean, Neurolanche Labs is creating a Web3 projects with using a concept abstraction to reach Web2 users. I mean, our main focus are to creating healthcare and education labs, projects to focusing these sectors. I mean, still we have two different products which is the running right now. One is a Ziki Strike, formerly named is the Astar Strike, and which is the Fireless AI. I mean, we created Ziki Strike for the in giving opportunity and utility for the at the beginning for the NFT collection in Polkadot ecosystem, because we saw we didn't have any NFT culture. We had, but like a global part, we didn't have any NFT culture in Polkadot ecosystem. We wanted to create a just a FPS game to chill inside of the game. But still, it is not like that, I mean, we are still focusing to using a concept abstraction to just focusing Web2 users, because I mean, we really wanna input a lot of people inside of the Astar network. And we are building our own product in the Astar network ecosystem. And also, I am also ambassador in Astar. And also we have another product, Fireless AI. It is our university projects. At the beginning, we invested $30,000 around ourselves to building this project. I mean, to testing the servers, because I mean, we are trying to, how can I say to you, inputting here some database from the what we are collecting from the university, and we are trying to train this AI database to understanding human emotions, behavior, mostly on this part. Still, also, I mean, we are running on this project in Neurolanche, but I mean, you understood me. I mean, our main focus are to creating different depths to reaching Web2 users with Astar network in technological structure. It is like that. I mean, if you have any question, you can ask me.
You want to add something, Ryan or Michael? Or
I just wanted to say very briefly, I've been amazed with the evolution of Leo and this team, because I remember right when he first started, like I was keenly interested in just the things that he was writing about, early on, because of the studies he'd been doing during COVID. And originally, one of the things that you guys were looking at was just Alzheimer's, and it's something that has like impacted my family. And I was immediately like, who is this guy? Like, what are they doing? And then just to see like how much you guys have continued to build and like what this has actually evolved into in a very real way has been exciting to watch.
Yeah, thank you so much. Actually, I mean, still we grow it a lot, because I mean, we created one new team for the developer part with my university friends, all of them the AI engineer, and they are making the PhD or their master, and we are still 23% in our team, to be honest. It is like that. I mean, also we are still we designed one token, which is the Next token, and we're gonna use this token inside of our all applications. And when people gonna use our applications in the future after the demo version, and when they're gonna get a subscription mode, for example, for the Fireless AI, they will not see the Nerox token when they are buying the subscription. We're gonna use paymaster models here. We are working with a third web and particle network on this process. I mean, to be honest, we wanted to abstract all blockchain side for our application right now. And I'm saying every time, I mean, we are not a project or company. We are just experimental laboratory. We are just trying to do what we can do as a students.
That's a great point. That's a really great point. So, Michael, you want to add something?
No, I was just saying to Leo off camera before how I've been following him on Twitter for ages, because like I feel like I've kind of lived two lives in Web3. I first got into the space in 2017, where I was just like the shadow guy, like just sort of started investing and learning and getting wrecked, and then sort of making a little bit of money and then getting wrecked again and then learning again. And it wasn't probably until 2020 that I actually sort of started actually becoming more full-time involved in it and working publicly in it. I was a school teacher once upon a time too, Funky, so we got that in common. But yeah, I've been following Leo on Twitter for ages, so it's it's cool to see the journey, and I'm definitely a follower, that's for sure.
Thank you.
Amazing. So now, Funky, I'm going to make a question to all that I think all Polkadot community wants to know. Let's talk about decentralized boys, Funky. Let's talk about no, I'm not going to make any specific question. Just want to know about Lucky Friday experience with DB, making a DB. How are your feelings with this?
Okay, so I tried to warn Rich that it's going to be a lot of work, and I think they're already starting to see this. It's only been a week, and almost immediately after the announcements were made, I started getting bombarded with DMs, emails, you name it, and even things that I wasn't prepared for, like, hey, please look at our proposal. We're going to put this up as a discussion. So it's not even a proposal, it's not even on chain, and people want feedback and stuff like that, which is good in one sense, but it's just the time that it takes up, I think, is a lot. But special shout out to Jordan, aka Nagroj. Like, he is the one who created the bot for Chaos DAO, and then the Kusumerians started using it. And so he helped me all of last week. I created the governance proxy, and then now like our actual wallet delegates to this governance proxy so the bot can do everything on chain. So that should save us some time. But in the Lucky Friday Discord, I had to create a whole, new, governance section that only the team can see, for instance. And so they have to go in there. And when Jordan let the bot go live, it was actually, I think, close to 77 proposals. Now it's at like 88 or 80, and I keep telling them, like, guys, you got to go in there and vote. Like, I already voted on all of them. So now it's trying to coordinate. We're trying to figure out like our internal systems to how to do these things. I am going to spearhead like a weekly meeting. I have dedicated time on my calendar to deal with the duties. But the actual experience, I couldn't speak to all that much right now because it just started. So I'm assuming the end of this week, we're going to start to see votes roll out on chain. And it's certainly an interesting time to be involved in Polkadot and OpenGov and all of the, for lack of a better word, the drama that it creates, right? But there's also this sort of creative tension and friction, I think, that also will make the network better, right? Because you're going to get better proposals, and people are going to have to reconfigure what they're asking for. Lucky Friday has a big position about having shared risk. We don't really care for people who continue to just come to the treasury again and again and again and ask for money when they really haven't done anything, or they, there's very little ROI on the product that's been released. So, this is going to be tricky to navigate. We have an OpenGov forum, which anybody can join. If you watch the podcast, there is a separate Telegram group. If you go to the Lucky Friday Labs Twitter page, for instance, it's the pinned post, and you can click on that. You can join our OpenGov forum. We're trying to keep everything public. We don't want DMs. We don't want anything that could be accused of maybe misbehavior. We want to be totally transparent. Whether we like your ref or not, we're going to say it right in that channel in front of everybody else. We don't want DMs and all these other kinds of crazy backdoor conversations, which political situations. At the end of the day, OpenGov is politics, and politics engenders that kind of behavior where people are trying to do backroom deals and, oh, hey, if you do this and do that, and I vote aye, and I'm going to vote. We don't want any part of that. We're trying to, again, be just demonstrate leadership in the ecosystem, and we hope that we can do that as Lucky Friday as a team moving forward.
Really excited for that. Thank you. Thank you so much. And I really shout out to Jordan also. He's a legend. That Discord bot is amazing. But please, one Telegram. So, and yeah, now we are going to jump right into Leo. Leo, I'm going to ask you about interesting stuff in Astar Network. This new season of DApp staking. Can you explain to us what is the DApp staking, what is it's about, and why Neurolanche is there, and I think the second one with more Astar locket.
Okay, sure. To be honest, Astar Network has a different utilities, but the best utility in Astar network is dApp stacking mechanism, because when you are having any project or product, you need to apply or you need to go to VCs or ventures, or you need to apply grants. But in Astar network we don't have this system, so we have a dApp staking. What is it? Most of time, when you're gonna go to any project and when you wanna stake your token, like a dot or another token, or like a glimmer token, you are staking your token in a validator. But in Astar it is not working like that. It is working, you are building the projects and you are applying this dApp staking program, and you are getting your pool. At the beginning you are not running anything. Astar team is running background, but the stakers and all users staking on your projects, and you are earning also from here some grants, we can say grants, some rewards to build your products. In dApp staking program we have a different utilities for Astar network ecosystem. First one is definitely users is getting interaction with these different dApps in Astar ecosystem. What is it meaning? This dApp staking mechanism is giving us opportunity to creating a sociological structure, because when you're gonna come to Astar ecosystem, you're gonna see most of project owners has a relationship with these communities, and we can say in Astar dApps has a lot of community power. Maybe you can see from the social media metrics, or also Twitter engagement. When you're gonna visit, for example, Neurolanche account, you're gonna see a lot of comments here, a lot of like, and a lot of engagement. Why we have like this stuff? Because Astar team is not focusing only this blockchain technological part. We are also focusing this sociological structure, because we are seeing if you wanna become a successful in Web3 part, you need to have also, how can I say it to you, community power, because your technology is not affecting only your product. When we're gonna come to Polkadot ecosystem, we have a very good sociological structure too, but most of our time people is saying about bad marketing things about Polkadot, but it is not like that. If you have a powerful community, when you're gonna grow, you can grow more fast. It is giving us to you, how can I say to you, creating a momentum. In Astar ecosystem, we have a dApp staking mechanism, and each dApp staking mechanism has a 4 months, near to 4 months, 111 days. And on this period, users is staking in different applications. And when they're gonna stake these different dApps, they are earning also staker rewards. Also, when they are earning this staker reward, this project is earning some rewards too. In dApp staking, we have a different 4-tier system. This tier system is working with the TVL amount. Project is getting, for example, tier 1 with 200 million Astar token. If they will need to become a tier 2, they need to have a 50 million Astar token. It is working like that. On this period, the staking mechanism changed, and we didn't have any season period. Still we have, because we want to make projects also active. Why? For example, 1 year ago we didn't have like this system, and one project staker is staking in a one product. Maybe sometimes this project's team is not working too much, and they have already maybe a lot of Astar token, and when you are staking your token, you are not changing it every time, and this project is not working very well. We wanted to change this system to have a governance model. It is not about the governance. We are saying this stuff voting, not staking actually. Also in this dApp staking version 3. On this period, we are in the voting period. The last season 1 finished last Saturday, and Neurolanche was the biggest actually dApp in the Astar network. We had around $40 million TVL, which is meaning like a 350 million Astar. It changed probably because of price, but whatever. Still, we are on the voting period, and we are still in the second biggest project here. But it is running. Probably we're gonna become again the first one. On this period, it is like that. also, there is a one opportunity I didn't mention about it. What is it? Projects is need to make some promotion to get the stickers on their pros. I mean, it is actually giving very good opportunity for the Astar community too. For example, Haltree is giving some reward from their Astar reward stickers. For example, Neurolanche is giving some allocations from the Neurox token to stickers. It is working like that. I mean, if you are holding Astar, stake on us. But I mean, we already reached it. We didn't reach yet tier 1 again. But if you're gonna reach again tier 1, you shouldn't stake on Neurolanche. Please help another projects in Astar ecosystem because they need to grow too. Thank you.
Oh, Fiji, that's great. For sure, I'm going to make here a disclaimer that you always make your own research of information, but I'm always sticking in Neurolanche. So that's perfect. Okay, so now let's jump to our friend Michael. Michael, are you there?
I'm here. Yep.
Perfect. I see in your website that you have, like in the one of the first phrases there, that is, you're going to reach 100 million users. How are you going to do this? And it's maybe have some meaning in Indonesia side.
Yeah, so this is a big claim from us, but something that we don't shy away from because we feel like we've got data to back it up. So here you go. You ready? Stay with me here. So we're onboarding new people. So a lot of the time in blockchain at the moment, it's just like recycling users around different ecosystems. But we're looking at to onboard new people. And we feel like our first use case gets us most of the way there to this number. So at the moment, that .id domain that I talked about before, you can go to .co.id for business and banking in Indonesia, or you can go to .go.id for government services. Right now, there's 100 million people that interact with these subdomains. So once our chain goes live, they're going to get prompted to say, hey, next time you interact with this website, would you like to use your .id domain system? So I could have michael.id or funky.id. And that means that you won't have to go through the password or KYC process or login process or whatever it might be. You can just use your .id. Now, if we get a 1% success rate and people saying, yes, I will do that, that's 1 million users. If we get a 10% success rate, that's 10 million users. And what that is, that's 10 million wallets on Mandala Chain and ultimately in the Polkadot ecosystem. So we do believe that our initial use case will get us a big way there, and just by these like prompts that are going to go out. Now, this might not happen in the first month. It might take a couple of months. It might take a couple of weeks. We don't know. But they're going to get prompted every single time they interact with one of these websites to say, hey, would you like to create a .id? And in the background, that then onboards them into the Polkadot ecosystem. And so this is why we're looking to partner with so many different teams and projects, because ultimately, like, we don't want to bring everyone just to, this .id and then that's it. We want to give them the full Web3 experience. And so, we've talked to Kilt about like embedding the Kilt ID into the .id. We've talked to like some of the other DeFi apps in the ecosystem about how we can integrate with them as well. So we know it's a big claim. There's chains like Arbitrum and Optimism in Ethereum that only have less than 2 million wallets. So we know this is a big deal. But we're looking to bring massive amounts of use case into the Polkadot eco through just this one use case of new users.
Wow! Wow! that's crazy. So, Michael,
we know it's crazy, but we think it's real.
No, yeah, for sure. But why Polkadot and not other chain?
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked me that question. So, I'll promise I'll be quick. This won't be a big story, but I originally got onboarded into blockchain through Ethereum, and I fell in love with it straight away. So I went straight to Ethereum even before Bitcoin, and I got really deep into that ecosystem, and I just loved everything about it. And then once Polkadot sort of starts spinning up, and like there's the talk of the parachains were coming, and I was following this whole process and researching it and writing about it. And our whole community followed it really closely. All of the launches from Astar to Moonbeam to, Parallel Finance and everyone else that started launching in those early days of the parachains. And I just figured that this is exactly, and still now, like this is exactly what Ethereum was supposed to be. And so when we were deciding what ecosystem to build this in, my co-founder Ante, before we sort of came up with the concept of Mandala Chain, was already building in a different ecosystem. And so from my Republic DAO days of researching and content creation, I thought, no, there's a better tech solution here. He was going to go to Avalanche because he like subnet type sort of thing of Avalanche sort of made sense. But I was like, no, there's a better solution here. Like Polkadot is the best tech stack that there is. And it would fit perfectly for what we're trying to do, because the word mandala means cosmos in Hinduism. And that's what it means. So we're trying to be a cosmos of chains, and the Polkadot reload chain and the parachains are already a cosmos of chains. So we're like that, expansion of the substrate based Polkadot cosmos ecosystem. So that's the long story short, but effectively, yeah, that's why we chose Polkadot.
So Mandala is the cosmos of Polkadot. That's great. So it's thank you so much, Michael. Now I'm going to jump to Ryan. Well, now it's like a more question to one single of you, but let's talk about a topic that we discussed in the beginning of this talk about the global impact of blockchain and the global impact of Polkadot. Let's say, no. I say that maybe Ryan can talk us a little bit about what is the situation of blockchain and Polkadot in the United States.
I mean, I think this is a tricky thing to unpack, right? I mean, obviously we've seen a lot of hostility out of the US. It seems to be geared more toward one side of the political spectrum, although now we're starting to see some realization, I think, from some of our political leaders that blockchain is not going anywhere. Right? We went from, I think a lot of the Republicans have been certainly at least very pro Bitcoin, maybe not necessarily the rest of crypto, but certainly pro Bitcoin. And then now that's starting to, I think it's helped a lot that we've had major institutions such as BlackRock, State Street, Fidelity, Vanguard, whatever, with these ETFs. That's brought a sense of legitimacy, certainly first and foremost to Bitcoin. Now the ETH ETF, I think it's opening up a lot of other pathways. But even just recently, the Biden administration announced that they're going to have a roundtable about this topic next month in July. So I think that there's starting to be a concession on the part of all political parties across the entire spectrum here in the US that blockchain is not going anywhere, that this novel technology can solve a lot of different issues. Obviously, there's a lot going on with the whole UI UX. It's not like, to what Michael's trying to do, for instance, with Mandala Chain, and just abstract away all that stuff to where it can just be an easy thing that somebody's interfacing with, like they're using the internet as they normally would. I think that's coming. It's still a long ways off. I think ultimately, the Connor Daly first big splash in America with the Indy 500 certainly helped a lot. I was one of the ones who helped, was in meetings for almost 6 months with Chris and Andrew, and there was a lot of pushback. There was a lot of people who said, like, it's a race car event. Like, why are people going to care? But you look at the Polkadot search metrics that day, and they absolutely exploded. Like Google search, because, Connor led for 22 laps. And what my argument was from the beginning is that Polkadot needs greater mind share. Like, we've struggled with mind share broadly, I think, in the Web3 space. I think Polkadot is more well known, and certainly in Europe. And, outside of that in the US, I could, people might recognize the name. I've had conversations with people like, I know it's a top 20 token, but I don't know anything about it. And so one of the things that I like doing is just trying to educate people, trying to show them, what the value proposition is, as we just said, right? Like, this is what Ethereum was supposed to be. Gavin Ori's kind of envisioned sort of a world supercomputer, and we're slowly iterating our way toward that with, first with Agile Core Time, then of course with Jam coming after that. So I think we're slowly building these things out. And so in the US, broadly speaking, I think that it's still somewhat inhospitable. I really wish we had clarity around the regulations, because I think that would open up the floodgates even more. And you'd probably have, like, for instance, I can't tell you how many times I'm geofenced out of opportunities because I live in the United States. The land of the free, more like the land of the SEC. And so until we can get rid of Gary Gensler, I'm not trying to soapbox here, but there's a certain amount of obstructionism that's impacting policy here in the US. And I think as soon as we can get that out of the way, and really kind of come together and build some sort of consensus around regulatory clarity for crypto broadly, I think it makes it that much easier. What is interesting, and the last thing I'll say, because I know I've been talking for a minute, if you notice the FIT21 bill that was out a couple weeks ago, probably the tail end around Memorial Day weekend, and I remember reading through the way that they defined DAOs and users, and I was talking to Bill Laboon. This was in Indianapolis, and I said, hey, did you see the FIT21 bill? And he said, yes. I said, I swear when you go through the 5 prongs of what constitutes a DAO, Polkadot checks every single one of those boxes. And he just kind of had this sneaky smile and he said, how do you think that got that way? And if you remember, the Web3 Foundation since 2018 has been working with the SEC, has been working with legislators and regulators to try and educate them about blockchain technology. So I think at the end of the day, we've been doing a lot of good work, even though Polkadot may not be recognized, but I think in due time, hopefully, and probably it will be.
Wow, I'm really going to clip that freedom. So you mentioned, Ryan, that here in Europe we are like more concerned, or we are more friendly with this blockchain side. Leo, I'm going to ask you about this.
Oh, to be honest, I mean, I moved to Italy 1 year ago, and it was my first experience in Italy about how people is thinking about the cryptocurrency, what is the process about all cryptocurrency stuff. Because when I moved here, I didn't even know how can I withdraw or deposit my money from my Italian banks. I didn't know anything about the European part. I mean, for me, to be honest, I mean, I visited to you also in Valencia. I saw a lot of also cryptocurrency friendly people, and there were a lot of exchange, also crypto exchange. I saw this stuff, but for Italy, to be honest, it is not so good for the thinking about the crypto, because I mean, I cannot say anything about the Italian part because there is a tax, and I am from originally Turkey. I was born in Turkey, and we don't have any tax in Turkey. It is why I am focusing mostly to using all Web3 part from my Turkish identity. To be honest, anybody don't know, I from the bank staff, I am working on this Web3 part. I mean, for me, it is so hard to explain. But in Turkey part, we have a lot of cryptocurrency users also. When we gonna check data, because probably we gonna see in the top 10 users coming mostly from Turkey, and we are the biggest cryptocurrency volume in the European part, if we're gonna say Turkey is in European part geographically. But don't look me like that. You can say Turkey is also European part. Okay, well, I mean, it is like that, to be honest. But in Turkey part, we saw also, we're gonna see in some couple next 2 months some regulations about the cryptocurrency, because still our government is working on this period. Probably I'm gonna pay also tax in Turkey too for the cryptocurrency, like you guys. But I mean, also, I mean, in Turkey part, most of also these companies, like technological companies in real life, Web2 companies started interesting with Web3. For example, Avalanche, and Avalanche's founder is originally from Turkey, and still we have the brand Turkish electricity cars. We are saying TOG, and I mean, Avalanche is also making some research about how they can input the blockchain technology on these electricity cars in TOG. I mean, we have like this position in Turkey about the blockchain part. I mean, but I mean, I can only add this knowledge because I mean, I say to you, I don't have a lot of information about the European part, but I saw in Italy, especially in Italy, the Polkadot is so powerful. I mean, when you're gonna check the also Polkadot ambassadors or any other applications ambassadors, most of people is also from the Italy. I mean, we have a lot of people from here. I mean, it is like that. Thank you.
Amazing. I remember Leo walking with me in Valencia saying, "Oh, a crypto chain. So yeah, thank you so much, Leo. Now I'm going to jump to Michael, but Michael, you introduced to us what is Indonesian part, what is the CN part. So I think that this is clear for the audience. For this last 10 minutes, we are going to play a game. Okay, Michael, you can make any question you want to Ryan and Leo. You are going to be the presenter now. Okay.
Oh, beautiful. Okay. I'll preface my question first before I ask it. So my for-profit business that I had prior to like focusing my time and attention on Mandala Chain was like a research hub, like I said, and Republic DAO, that's Republic with a K, not like so we're very chain agnostic community, and I hear all day, every day, people making the case of why their blockchain is the best. Now, obviously, I've picked my horse in this race, and everybody has good arguments about why they think their horse is the best. So I guess I'll ask the question to the team: if you could change one thing about, not necessarily the tech of Polkadot, because I think the tech is great, but one thing that you think you could change about our ecosystem, what would you like to see change?
Ooh, a spicy question, guys. Okay, we can start with Funky if you want.
Of course, I was hoping you're Leo first. But gosh, that's really tough. For me, this is a very, very personal answer here. And this kind of gets back to the thing I was saying earlier about the lack of mind share. I wish, if I had one thing that I could change, I do wish we had a smoother, easier to use, just a general, like there's a lot of conversation around UX, right? And in Polkadot, it can be super confusing. This is coming from someone who started researching and investing in Polkadot in 2020. And when I watched some of those very first early videos about a stash account, a controller account, I logged in, I saw Polkadot.js. I'm like, what the heck is this? And I knew in Kraken, I could hit the stake button and I was done. And so I really wish it were, and now in the same breath, a lot of teams are doing tons of work to make this a seamless experience. Novasama Technologies, shout out to that team. They are constantly like, the first time I found out I couldn't teleport assets to Asset Hub, for instance, it was broken literally in JS. And Lima was like, oh, we already figured out a workaround and you could do it in Nova Wallet. And so I did it. So I think if I had one thing that I would change, and again, I'm not trying, in my job, I interface with a lot of other teams outside of our ecosystem. And like when we first started getting into the Cosmos ecosystem, kind of like our cousins, right? And interoperability, almost every, interface I used, it seemed to be easier to navigate, easier to understand, quicker block times, things move faster. I just wish that the initial taste that people got when they got into Polkadot, they could see I wish they could see under the hood, right? To Michael's comment, that we know the tech is great, but I wish people didn't have a clunky UX to help them understand that. Like if it was just that, it was seamless, because at the end of the day, and this is the other thing I think is a huge asset, is our community is very welcoming and is always looking to help other people get over that UX hump. It's just simple. Like, can we make a better first look? I mean, like what's they say, like first impressions, you only get one chance at a first impression. That's it. That we could sum it up with that. Like it has to be a smooth user experience. Doesn't matter what chain you're on, doesn't matter what wallet you're using. It should be nice and smooth. And I don't think we've achieved that yet.
Amazing, Frankie. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm totally agree with you. I think that we need this better experience, user experience. I mean, we have good experience right now in Polkadot, but we know the tech is good. We can make it. We can, for sure, we can make it. And now, Leo, it's your turn.
Okay, thank you. Actually, to be honest, I'm really supporting Ryan. Funky, because most of users in Web3 learned the Polkadot with a bad UI and UX, unfortunately, but still I can say it is the better than most of blockchain. But they are thinking we are still bad because they are not checking again if we are good or not. For me, to be honest, I'm gonna be open here. Kusama Parachains occasions was so good. I mean, when Kusama Parachains Crowland started, it was very good the momentum because we were in the middle of the bull market. But unfortunately, when Polkadot Parachains started, we were at the end of the last bull season. And after this stuff, most of people stacked their all the tokens for the joining to these allocations, and the bear market started. Unfortunately, until they are getting to their token from the parachains, I'm not talking about dot tokens like different projects token. I mean, this bear market already started, and this period is affected a lot for the Polkadot ecosystem, because when Polkadot parachains Crowland started, I was seeing a lot of people was talking about, for example, Mumbium, Astrar, or Akala, which is gonna be the first parachain. Akala won it, but everybody was competing here, and where there is a competition, it was affecting. And I was seeing also in the streets, because in the bull season everybody's talking crypto. People was also talking about the Polkadot in Turkey. To be honest, I don't see after this period again who is talking about the Polkadot, because Turkish people is not so inside of the Polkadot ecosystem. But this Polkadot parachain action was probably the worst period for the Polkadot history, because after this period bear season started. I can say I wish to change this old period time on the beginning of the bull market.
Can I answer as well?
Sure.
100%, Michael.
I'll answer my own question. I just want to add on what Leo just said. So I totally agree with you as well. And I think sometimes inside the Polkadot ecosystem, for those of us that spend a lot of the time in it, we don't realize how good we do have it. And so with OpenGov, some of the drama or the spiciness, I guess, that we have, or some of the pushback from the community, it all exists because we're so transparent and everyone can see exactly what's happening. But man, you should see what happens in some of these other ecosystems. Like, it is mental what happens. And the reason why they are at the front of the mind share, or the front of the attention of so many different communities, and why Polkadot is not being spoken about, is because we just all assume that people and the community will realize that we have the best tech and then they'll come and adopt it. But it doesn't work like that. Like, it doesn't, like, just because something is the best doesn't mean that it's going to be the winner. And so, like, I know that there's like DeFi applications that are getting paid like massive percentages of the chain's token supply to come to those chains. Like people are buying their way to the top. And if these like transactions were OpenGov proposals, people would be disgusted by what happens in these blockchains. And I'm not talking like chain number 200. I'm talking like top projects. So I think some of the pushback and some of the outrage that people have at like marketing spends, or like trying to promote like Polkadot, it's only because we are so honest and transparent, and like all of our dirty laundry is there for everybody to see. So I think for me, if I could change something, I just wish that everyone could see under the hood of the dirty laundry of other people's blockchains and realize how, one, amazing we are, and two, how much more we should be doing to get Polkadot at the forefront of everybody's mind.
That's amazing. That's really amazing. And what do you think of accountability on OpenGov? Do you think we need, some type of auditors in the treasury? Because I saw some really good conversations in Polka right now.
I have
two
quick thoughts there. So one, I just actually, as part of my DV sort of introduction, I had a great meeting with Allison Bob and Jeeper from OpenGov.watch. So if you want to link that, OpenGov.watch, they put together some wonderful guides that will help people kind of assess different stuff. And then also Chris Papp and CryptoX, and I think there's one other person part of the team. They did the OG tracker, OpenGov tracker, and I don't remember the website off the top of my head and what they're doing, because I know we're putting one together right now for Teddy Dow. That's just sort of like the milestones we met for transparency. We're giving that to them, and then they can post it along with the ref. You know, even though it was back in the past, we can demonstrate how the funds were spent, so on and so forth. So there are some accountability tools out there that people can check out.
Yeah, I know in the early days, there was like almost the mentality where it was like, let's just throw a bunch of mud at the wall and see what sticks. And for the mud that doesn't stick, well, then they can never come back again. So that was kind of the mentality a little bit in the early days. I had a proposal go through back in November last year or something like that. But mine, like, I kind of felt like coming into the ecosystem, you either had to have some sort of reputation or like you had to have actually have some runs on the board. And so like I was one of those early marketing proposals that went through my company. And but we came to OpenGov with like 800,000 YouTube views already on Polkadot related content and said, okay, this is what we've done. Where I think that for me, like proposes less risk to the ecosystem. So I think for those like teams who are preparing for OpenGov, I think it would be like, how do you minimize risk to the Polkadot ecosystem in your proposal? That's the advice that I would give. So whether or not it's a retroactive thing or like, how do you minimize the downside to dot holders? Yeah, I think that's the play.
That's great, Michael. Leo, you want to add something?
Yeah, no, everything is what we are saying, you know.
Perfect. No, perfect. That's great. So, and one last question. This is the last question of today. Are you ready to decode it, guys?
Yeah, definitely.
I'll be there.
Excited. You know, it's gonna be my first Polkadot event. I mean, I joined many times to different blockchain events, but it was my first Polkadot, and to be honest, I grew it in the Polkadot ecosystem. When I joined here, I was a teenager.
Yeah. I'm a teenager now.
Yeah. It's great right now. It's nothing.
It will be my first decode also, and I will be the most youngest guy there. So please keep going. So thank you so much, guys, for being with me today in here the Meeting Point podcast. Now we are going to conclude this. If you want to add something to say goodbye to our audience, you can make it.
Thanks so much for tuning in, everybody, and thanks for having us, Adrian. Really appreciated the conversation. It was good to be on the stage with you, Leo, and Michael both.
Likewise, guys.
Have a good day. Thank you. Ciao.
Thank you so much. Ciao.